Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
All right, Pete, it's Films and Stuff, Saturday morning. How are you today?
I am great, Ethan. How are you?
Everything is good. This is our stream or skip episode where we select for each other randomly a show that we wouldn't otherwise choose to watch. And then we give our ratings, whether it's worth continuing to stream or whether you should just skip it.
That's right.
So, without further ado, what was your assignment for this week?
So I randomly selected a German television program, miniseries, called King of Stonks.
Not a typo. Not a typo.
So last week when we talked about it, I made the assumption based purely on the title, King of Stonks, that this was going to be a documentary or like a true crime miniseries a la, the WeWork scandal or the Theranos scandal about the GameStop / Reddit scandal of 2021, I think it was.
Is that what
Maybe
it's about?
It was early 22.
GameStop Reddit.
That's
like
what I thought it was going to be.
Oh.
I thought it was going to be about a meme stock based on the name.
Okay.
And that's what I assumed because it's called King of Stonks. And I was very, very wrong.
Do you know what I thought it was going to be about?
What was it going to be about?
I thought it was going to be kind of like The Wolf of Wall Street. And I thought it was going to be something where also maybe a little bit documentary-ish, where it was just about like this bro culture, like a pump and dump or some type of like, again, stock scandal. And I don't know what the word stonks meant, but that's kind of what I was assuming it was going to be.
So what's really funny is that you just mentioned The Wolf of Wall Street, and that is the first reference I make in my notes when I watched the first two episodes of the show.
Oh,
so you nailed it. At least in terms of theme and in terms of feel, you 110% nailed it. Huh. This is a German miniseries about a pre-IPO digital payments company based in Germany.
Okay.
And the company needs to get a government contract to really sell the IPO and to really make this one of Germany's first fintech unicorns, right? To have a valuation over $1 billion. As I watched this, there were a few red flags going off in my mind because the storyline seemed very familiar to me. And the reason it's familiar to me is because I then did a little bit of digging and I quickly realized that this series is very loosely based on the Wirecard fraud of 2020 that happened in Germany.
Oh, so this is a fiction. It's a fiction? It's not like a documentary. It's a fiction series.
Yeah, it's a fictionalized version of real life story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's why this is a little bit like The Wolf of Wall Street because it has that energy, which is there are moments of, fourth wall breaking. There's, the tone is very lighthearted. It's a little comedic at times. Think of a combination of The Big Short and The Wolf of Wall Street. It has that energy. So the idea is that the premise is that this company has an IPO, it's very successful, but immediately after the IPO, there's a lot of controversy, there's a lot of problems because there's some, let's say, regulatory issues with the number of accounts that are actually accurately being presented within the bank. And, there's a relationship with two owners / investors in the company are owners of an adult website, and they appear to be blackmailing the Wirecard guy somehow. And I keep saying Wirecard, but it's obviously not Wirecard. The show's version of Wirecard. I have to say, I watched the show, as I do with most foreign titled shows.
Is it in German with subtitles?
It's German. Entirely in German with subtitles, and That's what I prefer. I prefer watching with subtitles than I do with dubs, because when I hear dubs but I see actors voice mouths moving,
Yeah,
I don't
throws you
like
off.
that, it because it never obviously can't match up. It makes
Throws
me
you
feel
off.
like I'm watching something off speed and something feels
Yeah.
off kilter. So I just prefer reading subs. But having said that, when you're reading subtitles, you lose a lot of nuance, and subtitles, typically speaking, unless they're excellently done, subtitles, you lose a lot of nuance in idiom, especially in idiomatic things.
Yeah.
So it
And in
could have been a
expressions,
mistake,
like
especially
in
with
tone,
expressions.
inflection, like
So much.
Yeah.
So much. And then coupled with the fact that it's in German language, so, and no disrespect to the German language, but,
just like
when
being
you
shouted
hear,
at for an hour.
Yeah, there's a lot of the tonality of German as a standard language is very
It's not a romantic
not
language.
subtle. It's not a subtle language, right? It's not like an Italian or a Latin or a French. It's not a romance language for
It's
a
not
reason.
soothing. It's not soothing.
So it's a little jarring at times. So that there's a little bit more of cognitive dissonance in there. Anyway, so I saw the first 2 episodes. I thought it was very interesting. To break it down, ultimately, it's definitely a mooch for me if you like this genre. And generally speaking, I love this genre. I like, shows where you kind of learn about real life business scandals, like the Theranos, like the WeWorks, all of them. I like them in general.
I'm in. I agree.
This was a little bit more difficult because it's in German. If you do watch it, I strongly suggest you watch it in dubbed, not in subtitles, which is contrary to my normal advice. Because it'll allow you to focus on the show more than just the reading and trying to make sure trying to understand what the tone is.
So this is a one season series, like a mini series.
It's a mini series. That's right.
How many did you watch? How
I
many are there?
watched. I think there are 8 episodes in all, and I watched 3.
If you're going to do this in terms of like a financial services company, which is what you watched, it really takes a lot of skill in the filmmaking to kind of make it interesting to people who don't have that type of background in like accounting,
That's
finance. Right.
That's right.
And-
So this show was very good about that, I will
Yeah.
admit, because, you and I understand that because we've been very, very exposed to it and we've dealt with it on a professional basis in our real lives. What they do in this show, and this is why there was a lot of Big Short / The Wolf of Wall Street energy in this, is they used like on-screen animation to show you, all right, well, this is our bank. These are our customers. These are the accounts. How do we launder money? And then they kind of show you like a flow chart kind of thing, which is very simplistic. Like we
They
don't
animate it.
necessarily need it. Yeah. You and I wouldn't necessarily need that animation to understand what the process of money laundering or fraudulent accounting would be.
Yeah.
But I think for your very average viewer who isn't involved in banking on a detailed basis, or for any average viewer who doesn't care for the nuances of that,
Exactly.
this is a very simplistic way and a very nice way of showing it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. If you can do that. Therefore, I have to say these types of scandal miniseries never get old for me. I'm always up for watching one of these good ones.
I haven't seen the rest of the series yet for King of Stonks, but I will say that the first 2 or 3 episodes, if you can get past the language barrier, the fictionalization of this wirecard fraud is quite interesting. It's a little bit different because most of the criminal documentaries / criminal TV miniseries that we've seen in the last couple of years have been focused on more controversies that we've seen, like in the WeWork space or in the Theranos space, that kind of thing. This is one of the, we haven't seen many banking ones. This is one of the first, or maybe not the first ones for sure, but it's one of the more, let's say, niche ones that most people will not have heard about unless you're in that space. It's quite interesting. So King of Stonks, it's a mooch from me. If you have got Netflix, watch it, but I'm not going to say you should watch it right now. Stop everything you're doing. Certainly wait till you've heard all our podcasts first, and then you should definitely watch it. I think it's good, it's interesting, and it's something different. If you're into this genre, I recommend it.
Okay, appreciate that, Pete. My homework this week was for a Netflix show that just came out on June 15th. It's a 16 episode series 1, no word on whether it's been renewed or not, called God's Favorite Idiot.
I'm so excited. I put this in here. No, I'm excited. I'll tell you why. Because it's one of the few sitcom style, like actual pure comedies that I've put on our list. And I have to say, I didn't watch it. I don't know anything about it except for the fact that Melissa McCarthy and Ben Falcone, her husband, are in the show. I don't know anything else about it. And I have been craving a short and sweet sitcom. So I thought that this would be something that if you recommended, it would be something I would watch as well.
I am sorry to burst your bubble, Pete, but I do not and cannot recommend the show whatsoever. Let's start with the setup. I feel like, Falcone and McCarthy are husband and wife, and they've worked together a lot. And I feel like they looked at what happened to Ted Lasso on Apple TV Plus, which is really one of the very few nice guy, feel good kind of sitcoms on the marketplace, right? Mm-hmm. There's, as far as I'm aware, there's no vulgarity. There's very few, very cringy, off-color type of comments or situations. It's really based on niceness and getting along and collegiality and all these other like very positive messages, right? I mean, and I think that's why Ted Lasso has resonated so strongly, is that it's a little bit different from all the other negativity. And, it does have a very feel-good element to it. I feel like God's Favorite Idiot is trying to tap into that. And, one of the reasons that you and I commit to watching kind of 2 or 3 episodes is that it's true that a new series, it takes a little bit of time often to kind of find its footing. But I have to say, having watched 1 episode, I was ready to turn this off kind of midway through. And I'm committed to Pete. I'm committed to films and stuff. Gotta push on. The show must go on, right? Rain or shine, sleet or snow. I pushed on episode 2, episode 3, and I was just kind of waiting for that moment. I wanted the show to come out and surprise me and reward me for my patience. But I have to say, the more I got into it, and I got through 3 episodes, I don't know, I guess there's some universe where it like improves in episode 6, 7, 8. It was a disaster, unfortunately. And I'll tell you why the disaster is. Let's ignore the premise. I'll explain the premise, but I don't think the premise is the problem. The premise is Falcone and McCarthy are colleagues in, I don't know, some IT support company, typical like office type setting. And he's a very, very nice, decent guy. And she's, very abrupt and, to put it mildly, kind of like a crass character. And he's got this crush on her. She wants nothing to do with him. And somehow they end up going out for dinner. And before dinner, he is somehow struck by lightning in his backyard. And he becomes infused with some type of like spirit. And when he goes to dinner with her, at some point, he just starts like glowing. He just has like this, I don't know, nuclear radiation ember glow like surrounding his whole body. he becomes kind of this internet sensation. And it turns out that an angel has come to visit him, and he's going to be this messenger, and so on and so forth. Okay, the premise is totally unrealistic, like a lot of shows we watch. And I'm willing to get past that if there's some other, kind of like redeeming qualities. The problem I think I have with this starts with the title, that it almost doesn't want to take itself seriously. And I feel like it's just waffling between all these like very strong themes that it has. Falcone is a good actor. And to be honest, I thought that that's the guy who plays Molly's husband on For All Mankind, but you said it's not.
They look a little alike, but it's not.
Yeah. So he plays a very nice guy, down to earth, meek. And because of that, to be honest, he almost intentionally has no personality in the show. He comes off as far too mild. If you think of Ted Lasso is a gentleman, but he has a clear personality, right?
Yeah.
Like he's outgoing.
And it's not a quiet one either.
Yeah, and it's not a quiet one. He's not meek. He may be a nice guy and polite and decent, but he's very friendly and outgoing and charismatic.
For sure.
Extroverted. Falcone is not that character. He plays almost the opposite. Like he even says at one point, his hobbies are, like going in like the steam room and like taking walks and stuff. Like he's intentionally boring. And I know that's kind of like the theme. McCarthy, who's always bold, right? I mean, we've seen her in how many different shows? I mean, I'm just trying to think of it.
Bridesmaids, Spy. I mean, there's countless number of really Ghostbusters. Yeah.
She was also in Heat, Tammy, right? And she always plays the same character, which I think is a little bit unfortunate because I think she's a very good actress. But to be honest, she's either typecast herself or she's been typecast into that overweight, very gruff, aggressive, like almost
loud,
like
slightly obnoxious.
Yeah, she's almost like a parody of herself, Like she's never played a thoughtful type character. And in this, it's like she's been made to be even like a bigger parody of herself. Just the way that she dresses, like all of her outfits are just like almost like comically crazy, like no one really would even wear the ugly type of like, let's call them like Christmas sweaters, like no one wears that type of stuff like on a day-to-day basis. No one really goes into an office and she's got like these wide like neckties on. No one honestly dresses like that, like they obviously didn't want to make her frumpy. They didn't want to make her trendy. So they just kind of made her like this crazy parody. The way that she talks to people in the office, I mean, there's F-bombs in the movie or in the show. It's just like they've almost like said like, okay, be your craziest self, Melissa. Just go nuts. Anything that comes to mind, like ad lib it and just like go berserk and let's just, make people laugh with how crazy and disgusting and kind of vulgar you can be, And it just doesn't come off right. She can be very funny at times. Like in Ghostbusters, she was kind of funny. In Bridesmaids, she was kind of funny. Like she is a very gifted actress and she can come off well. But to be honest, I found that there's just like over the top. And then coupled with the fact that Falcone is like so meek, there's just no chemistry at all. They're just like forced together only, like there's nothing that would indicate that these two people like have any other like reason that they would be in a relationship or, care for each other. They're just wildly different characters. So I was really not getting any type of emotional connection to the show. Like I said, the premise is silly. But like a lot of shows that we watch, the premise is silly. We can get past that, right? If it's done well. I mean, we love For All Mankind. And I mean, we've got like Russians on Mars, right? I mean, that's no crazier than this thing, I guess,
Yeah.
But the idea was, I just found like there was no like witty writing. There was no like sincere, like tender moments. It wasn't dramatic. It was just Melissa McCarthy just trying to be like as bold and crazy as she wanted to. And we were supposed to kind of like find that funny given how, quiet and introverted, her husband, whose name is, I don't even know what his name is in the show, Clark, is supposed to be. So I read through, I wanted to make sure that like I was being fair to this. And I read through, some of the comments online. And just to give a comparison, on IMDb, it's got a 5.7 rating. Mm-hmm. On Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter is 33%. The tomato meter is what I understand to be like professional
that's right. Critical
reviewers.
The summary of critical reviews or professional reviews. Yeah.
Yeah, the professional reviews. And then there's an audience score, which I guess is just like anyone can put their score there. The audience score was 69%, which I found higher than usual. But I have to say, and this is a topic you and I maybe should address after this is done. The audience ratings and comments, just like everything in life, seem to have been hijacked and probably are not really relevant anymore, right? They seem to be...
We are definitely going to talk about this when we discuss Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, because it seems like that whenever there's a new show out, that there's kind of two different, let's call them bot armies, right? There is... So if this is Netflix probably hires a bunch of, or at least like one firm, and says, hey, create 100,000 Twitter accounts or Instagram accounts and post about this and put like really good comments, right? To like pump up our ratings. And on the other side of this, there's probably one or two haters out there who also create their own bot army to like intentionally crap on this because someone was insulted or they don't like this or they've got their own show that they want to, pump up instead. And that little bot army is going around making terrible comments and giving poor ratings, right? So for me, I have to say the ratings, I guess I'm saying you have to kind of take them with a grain of salt, but generally that tomato meter at 33%, which is supposedly like what the critics say, that seems to resonate more with me. I really just could not find anything redeeming about this show. I can't even give it a mooch. I give this a straight up skip. And I strongly urge Melissa McCarthy to try to find a different role for herself. I feel like she's talented. She's kind of pretty. And I'm really feel like she's just diminishing herself, always playing this plump, overweight, aggressive, like nincompoop. It's too much.
I think you should watch St. Vincent with Melissa McCarthy and Bill Murray. And there's a kid actor in there. I can't remember him for the life of me at the moment. That was a very, very good movie. And she plays an excellent... She's not the lead. She's more like a supporting actor. She's very good in that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's a great drama. It's really nice. I think that's probably something that's much more indicative of the talent that she has. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, Melissa McCarthy is a hysterical actor. She's very good, but I kind of understand what you mean. She's almost... The role choices that she's made or that she's taken has kind of painted her into a corner.
Yeah. Despite everything I said, and I stand by the fact that it's a strong skip, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if this was renewed for two reasons. One, I think this is really inexpensive to make. I mean, there is nothing expensive about this to make. And two, since Falcone is the creator and he and McCarthy are the stars, I would imagine they would do whatever concessions are kind of necessary to keep it going for another year. It's probably a little bit their passion project. They're working together. I would imagine that it's such a cheap budget that they're somehow going to convince Netflix to like let it ride for like another season so that they can at least squeeze 2 seasons out of it. And for Netflix, it's like, meh, it's a comedy. It's a big name. It's costing us nothing. Yeah, like, let's do another one. Like, it's nothing, to be honest. So I kind of feel like, just given the cost and given who's behind it, it could probably get renewed for another season. But that would only be because I think creator and stars are behind it. I don't think it's because of ratings or viewer demand.
Okay, fair enough. And before we continue, Films and Stuff is not accusing Netflix of creating bot armies or paying for bot armies for their reviews. This is simply an opinion and not factual in any way, shape, or form.
Are you giving the disclaimers now? I love it, Pete.
This is the Films and Stuff legal disclaimer section.
What we really need is we need to do that like on a recording, and there's like an emergency button that
like
you can
a
just
soundboard button.
Yeah.
We just hit that.
Yeah. Like I say something, you say something, and the alarms go off. You're like, hold on, we've got to hit the disclaimer button.
The views of Pete or Ethan do not accurately represent the views of Films and Stuff.
But can we talk about the bot army? If not on this episode, let's do it on the...
We're going to have to, because it's going to come up in a big way when we talk about House of the Dragon. Sorry, I apologize. See, and that's also going to come up.
Rings of Power.
Rings of Power, which I think is also a terrible name. But we're going to come up with that. It's going to come up. I've written quite a quite a lengthy summary as to why this is a problem. And it's not just a problem for the creators of these shows and platforms. It's a problem for people like you and me who, we are not the types of people who would politicize a review one way or another. And we look at reviews for what they should be, which is an accurate or at least a subjective representation as to the quality of a TV show or a movie. And that is becoming harder and harder.
I agree. All right, so that is this week's stream or skip. We've got one mooch and we've got one skip. Yep. And Pete, I see that you are working ahead. You've already rolled the virtual dice. You've already selected what we've got for next week.
I have. You know me, I like to stay ahead of the game. I'm excited to say that for next week, I will be watching Lock and Key on Netflix.
What is that about? Or should we guess what that's about?
Honestly, I have no idea, but based on the way Lock is spelt, I'm assuming that it's two people. A human
it's got to
name,
be
right?
like two detectives, male, female, and they're probably at each other's throat. And
this is probably the way this is going and the way the trends are probably set like maybe 100 years in the past or so. So we're talking like maybe
London.
Early 19th century or late 19th century, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be a contemporary / modern show.
Yep.
And you, my friend, will be watching HBO Max's Made for Love.
Sounds steamy. Can I guess what it's about? And I feel like I know what it's about.
I don't know anything, so let's go for it. What's your best bet?
I think this is somehow about a little bit in the future where they have like, I don't want to call them sex robots. Let's call them like mechanical companions.
Okay.
I feel like it's something like this.
I mean, if that's the case, I will be very intrigued to hear, especially what your review is going to be.
Let's see. That's what I think this is about. Made for Love.
Okay.
If it was spelled MAID, like the housemaid for love, then obviously it would be something else. But this is MADE. Like
that would sound like a Jennifer Lopez rom-com.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Or that French dude, like the Harassment. What was that guy's name?
Pepe Le Pew?
No, not Pepe Le Pew. The French... Was he
Gerard
head of like
Depardieu?
IMF? Wasn't he head of like the International Monetary Fund?
Oh, Jean Reno.
Yeah. Is that
Yeah,
who
he
it was?
He was a member of Mission Impossible 1. He wasn't the head, but yes.
No, I thought there was a guy who was like the European like central bank, right? And he was in New York for meetings, and like he had an affair with like a hotel maid, and then he was arrested on his way to the airport because she reported it.
God, I
Remember
do
this?
remember this story. First of all, I have to say kudos to you. When you said IMF, you meant the International Monetary Fund. And like the nerd that I am, I immediately thought of the Impossible Missions Force from Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
So kudos to you for being the classy one.
Not the classy one. It was Dominique Strauss-Kahn.
Okay, there you go. But I do remember that story.
And he was the IMF. He was the IMF chief. But in this case, yes, IMF is International Monetary Fund, not your fictitious Tom Cruise. This was in 2002. Remember, he was going to the airport, and I think he was either pulled off the plane before it took off, or he was arrested at the airport.
Something like that. I do, but I don't remember what the problem was in terms of how he was arrested. But I do remember that he was basically making a run.
Yeah,
and he got pulled over. He got stopped. He got taken out, and I guess he got in serious trouble for it. Yeah,
it said a maid at a New York hotel went to police alleging that she was assaulted, and they went to the airport right before he took off. And why hasn't that been made into a movie?
Maybe too close to real life. Yeah. But okay, so in any case.
Okay, we've got our homework for next week. Lock and Key, Made for Love.
Exactly. And again, King of Stonks, it's a mooch, and God's Favorite Idiot is a skip. Both available on Netflix.
That's true. Okay, Pete, lovely episode with you. Stay tuned, everyone. Aloha at filmsandstuffpodcast.com.
Or at F&S Podcast on Twitter.
We'll catch you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.